We finished the first 2 months of a year that everybody agrees is critical in the country called Kenya, with a tragedy. The passing on of a member of parliament in a tragic helicopter accident, the late Johana Ng'eno, a very controversial MP, and also, this is very important, kingpin of the Kipsigis community within the larger Kalenjin tribe. And of course, we have conspiracy theories flying all over the place. However, regulars on this channel will know, if I have not seen any evidence, if I've seen no pointers, I will not join in any conspiracy theory. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not ruling out foul play. No. All I'm saying, give me time. I will not speak about something I know nothing about. Never ever. But that does not mean that we will not dive very deep into this Johanna Ng'eno manenos. We will. Please tuliza boli. We will get there. We will even talk about what people are saying about blood manenos, bloodletting, and the consequences. I am taking no prisoners. We'll dive right into that. But also on my show today, we're going to look into the passport fiasco, whereby warlords are going around with Kenyan diplomatic passports. Yeah. And I'm sure today you're going to hear things you will not believe. Also on my show today is a spiritual bird's eye view of exactly what is going down in Kenya right now. And that should be more than super fascinating, because you're going to understand a lot of things that are happening in Kenya right now. But even more importantly, we're going to understand and predict with pinpoint accuracy exactly what is going to happen next. And by happening next, I mean very, very soon. Virtually almost immediately. Yeah? Based on solid spiritual evidence. I'm sure that will be more than super fascinating. But let us start with the Johanna Ng'eno tragic latest developments. My heart goes out to his family. My deep and sincere condolences to all those who loved him and were close to him, and even his constituents. Although we must always remember that when somebody leaves us, it is not about them. It is about us, who have been left behind, who still have a chance, who still have a life. We don't know how long. Nobody does. But the point is, we still have a chance to make things right before we depart. Therefore, it is always about us, not about the departed. In my controversial opinion, I take it always as a warning from the Most High. Hata wewe siku yako inakuja. Je, umejipanga? Are you ready? Yeah, for that thing which will happen on a day you do not know. Anyway, the reason why there's so much murmuring, so many conspiracy theories, in the absence of facts, you really need to know, if you did not know, is because, and only because, of the politics. Because the politics surrounding the late Johanna Ng'eno and the Kipsigis community ni moto kuliko pasikumi ya makaa. Oh yes! Now we need to understand that the problem here is that the Kalenjin community by nature and by culture are very secretive. Even the analysts within the community will not come out and give you the facts and details and what is happening. Mainly because to them, they see it as a betrayal of the community. And this also applies to the Maasai community. They're very secretive. Kujua mambo yao ni ngumu. In most instances, they will pretend that everything is okay. But let's start this story at the beginning. From around mid last year, there have been very serious murmurings, very, very serious chini ya maji rebellion from the Kipsigis community towards the current Ruto administration. Oh yes. And Bwana Rigathi Gachagua had this information, and that is why recently he landed in Bomet, Kipsigis country. He did not go to the Nandi, he did not go to the Keio, he landed in Bomet, Kipsigis country. And we clearly saw the excitement of the crowd on the ground. They all seemed to be one term, which was strange to many Kenyans who do not understand the internal politics of the Kalenjin community. But let us also understand what all the beef is about. Okay? The beef is the Kipsigis community are feeling left out of the Ruto administration. The feeling on the ground is that they have not benefited, and that the Nandi and the Keio are the ones who have been greatly favored by this administration, even in government appointments, in wielding power in the Ruto administration, etc., etc. Now, super fascinating, and I'm now going very deeply into politics. Now, super fascinating, the late Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, the second president of Kenya, had exactly the same problem. However, the truth is, although Ruto has this same problem, yake ni times 10. Okay? You see, Moi had a huge advantage in that he did not belong to the Nandi community, very influential within the Kalenjin, and he did not belong to the Kipsigis community. Those are the ones with the largest population. If we can go into statistics, they account for 45% of the entire Kalenjin community in both Kenya and Uganda, the Kipsigis. And therefore it was very easy for Moi to play the Nandis against the Kipsigis. Ruto does not have that luxury, especially because he has roots in both. Now, I need to ask you a question, yeah? And of course, let's not forget, yeah, we're still discussing Johana Ng'eno politics, which has been dragged into his very sudden death. And my question is Ruto a Kipsigis or a Nandi? Most Kenyans will say a Nandi, and of course they're wrong. And that is why I have to ask you yet another question. What clan do you belong to? Is it the clan of your mother or the clan of your father? Of course, the answer to that is very obvious. You belong to the clan of your dad, your father. And so if you agree with me that that is a fact, then President Ruto belongs to the Kapkomo Sek clan of the Kipsigis community, the clan of his late biological father, Mzee Daniel Cheriot, who hailed from the Kipsigis community. But because of the circumstances of how he was brought up and how he is very close to his Nandi mother, most Kenyans believe to this day that he hails from the Nandi community. And I believe he brought out his personal preference very clearly when he changed his name while he was still a mere member of parliament from William Kipchirchir Ruto to William Samoei Ruto, because he named himself after the great, revered, legendary Nandi leader Koitalel Arap Samoei, the Kenyan most responsible for holding off the mighty British Empire in the building of the railway for 11 long years, with his guerrilla tactics, bows and arrows, against guns and cannons. He reigned supreme. Alinyorosha wabeberu kweli kweli. This great man Koitalel Arap Samoei, until one day the Brits played dirty, pretended to invite him to a peace meeting, and assassinated him by doing something very cowardly, walimpiga risasi nyuma ya kichwa at point blank range, and preserved his skull to this day outside the country of Kenya. I think they were studying DNA, etc., etc. walikuwa wanataka kujua kwani huyu mtu alikuwa na akili namna gani, and he has not gone to our schools, he is not educated, hajaenda shule, ana degree, but how come he was so smart? He outsmarted us for 11 long years. My theory, yeah? But the fact is, that part of his remains is still not in motherland Kenya as I speak. And so Kipchirchir legally became Samoi. I trust that now you're beginning to understand just how complex Kalenjin politics is, and especially what we're discussing today. But I'm really hoping that I don't lose anybody, and that we all follow so that we understand. Now, the late Johanna Ng'eno was a kingpin and champion of Kipsigis rights, and he always fought to the end for the Kipsigis. A case in point was over the controversial Mau settlement, Manenos, where he put aside his education. He and very many leaders from the community put aside their education, their knowledge, their common sense, and their logic to support the Kipsigis community. And the truth is, with him gone, there is no replacement in sight, because other prominent leaders like Isaac Ruto have made it very clear that they are on the other side, the two-term side, yeah, and would rather downplay, yeah, the feelings on the ground of the Kipsigis community. Now, in my opinion, if somebody thought that with Johanna Ng'eno out of the way, it would be easier to deal with the Kipsigis problem, in my opinion, they were very mistaken. Because what is going to happen next is that the Kipsigis are going to circle their wagons, yeah, get together, and fight even harder, yeah, for the cause of the community, and fight even harder than when Johanna Ng'eno was around leading them in their fight, which in my opinion is going to cause very serious problems to this administration. They already have very serious problems over this Kalenjin politics, but it is now going to get a lot worse, okay? And if you're in doubt, I suggest that you review the clips and the videos of the Gachagua meeting at a place called Mulot in Bomet recently. And the fact that this tragedy has happened, yeah, of Johanna Ng'eno losing his life, the fact that it has happened so quickly after the Mulot Gachagua meeting is adding fuel to the fire of conspiracy theories. Naturally. Yeah, and I'm sure by now you can see why. Actually, kweli in politics, vindu vichenjanga. Because the late Ng'eno started off as a very staunch supporter of William Samoei Ruto. He even came out as a kind of person who was ready to sacrifice for Ruto. Because at the height of the battle between Ruto and the then President Uhuru, yeah, Ng'eno was sucked into a plot, njama, where he said a few things that were so serious that he was arrested for hate speech, and even risked very bad things happening to him, because according to Governor George Natembeya, he's the one who saved Ng'eno from kufanywa vitu vibaya sana inside cells. They had planned for him, okay, to teach him a lesson. I believe at that time, Ng'eno looked at Ruto as one of us. Mtu wa Komosek clan, mtu wetu. However, things changed very dramatically, so that by the time he passed on, things were very different. And so now, South Rift politics is about to get even more interesting. But let's wait and see how this develops. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's just wait and see how this pans out. Shall we? Now, most Kenyans do not understand that we have a very long history of passport yetu kutumiwa vibaya. Our passport being used very badly, with very dire consequences on the rest of Kenyans. Oh yes, and let me give you the perfect example. Until March 7th, 1996, If you wanted to visit the UK, all you needed to do was to ensure that you have your passport with you. There was absolutely no business of going over to the High Commission to look for a visa. Hiyo ilikuwa hakuna. You just go to the airport with your passport, and of course you've already purchased your air ticket, and you fly to London. And when you arrive, it is like crossing over to Tanzania. You encounter this immigration officer, and he just asks you, how long are you staying? And he stamps your passport, and he tells you, welcome to the UK. Until March 7th, 1996, the 90s, the late 90s, okay? Not the 70s, not the 80s, the 90s. So what happened that things changed so suddenly? People misused the Kenyan passport. That's all that happened. There was a problem in neighboring Somalia. Isn't there always a problem there? There was a problem there. And many Somalis from Mogadishu and the environs crossed over to Kenya, easily got a Kenyan ID, easily got a Kenyan passport. Yeah, that's very easy. After all, our country ni nchi ya kitu kidogo. I think we all know that. That's not breaking news. And then they flooded Heathrow. Because at the time, to get into Britain, all you needed was a Kenyan passport. And you'd stay for 6 months without anybody asking you many questions. Oh yes, that's how it was. And when they flooded London, the Mzungu said, no. From this day on, Kenyans will need to apply for a visa. And so from March 7th, 1996, for you to land in the UK, ni kazi, my friend. Ni kazi. You have to start by looking for this highly valued thing called a visa to allow you entry into the UK. It all happened because people misused the Kenyan passport. Because Kenya is a key country in the British Commonwealth. And most countries in the Commonwealth have certain privileges. And we lost a very important privilege because somebody misused the Kenyan passport. Fast forward to the present, it is happening again. Senior RSF people were issued with Kenyan diplomatic passports. Work on a diplomatic passport? I bet you don't. That is not something very easy to get. But a foreigner, somebody committing atrocities in their country called Sudan, has a diplomatic passport, Republic of Kenya. Now, there is a deeper story nobody is talking about here. And let me ask you a very simple question so that we dive into this deeper, super fascinating story. How did this secret come out? That a warlord, the brother of a warlord, in a place where we know atrocities are ongoing, got a Kenyan diplomatic passport. How did that story leak out? Well, it came from Watu wa Trump. It came from the US. Now, why would the US release such information? Because it was very clear from the way they released that information that they wanted people to know that these people have a Kenyan passport. In other words, they wanted the world to know that these people are being assisted by powerful people in Kenya. No, in fact, not powerful people. These people are being assisted by the Kenyan government. That is really the message the Americans were sending to the world. Now, think about it for a minute. Did they want to send this message to the world for the good of the Kenyan people? Or rather, for the good of the Kenyan government? No, of course not. They were exposing the evil of the Kenyan government. Pure and simple. Now, why would they want to do that? Is it because the Americans ni watu wa two-term? I'm not going to answer that one. Please answer it for yourself. Did they do it because the Americans ni watu wa two-term? Ama ni watu wa one-term? Answer that question for yourself. I believe the answer is more than obvious. More problems for the Ruto administration and his impossible ambition, because nobody sees how it's going to happen, of serving a second term as President of the Republic of Kenya. Okay? Based on solid facts which I've presented before you. Now, where is Kenya spiritually? Kenya, I believe, spiritually, is in a place which is very similar to where the country was immediately after 1969. And here's the breaking news for most of us, because most of us don't follow history. We have no time for history. Here's the breaking news for you. After 1969, the Jomo Kenyatta presidency was kwisha maneno. It was just a matter of time. And so that we understand what is happening currently, spiritually, we need to answer the question, what really happened that was significant in the year 1969, spiritually speaking? Well, 1969 was the year of major assassinations. It started in January with the assassination of a great son of the country, Agwins Kodek. Officially at the time, Bwana Kodek, a brilliant lawyer, in fact the first African Kenyan black lawyer to qualify, and he qualified in Great Britain. The official story is that he passed on after a road accident. And this road accident happened in Nairobi, on a busy Nairobi road. Can you imagine that? Yeah, on a road which today is named after him. But then we learned when Mwai Kibaki came into power and released some government confidential information that actually Bwana Kodek died from, wait for this one, gunshot wounds from a government-issued rifle. Okay? And then, in the year 1969, this was followed by the assassination of Thomas Joseph Odhiambo Mboya, Tom Mboya, on July 5th, 1969. And then, this was followed by the Kisumu massacre on 25th October, 1969. All that was part of an operation. I have a landmark video series on this channel titled Tom Mboya. It was more than an assassination, which explains all this in great detail. All this was part of an operation to completely neutralize the Luo community from being a threat to the Jomo presidency and to secure the Jomo presidency well into the future, maybe another 20, 30 years. That was the plan. But obviously the people who planned this were not aware of a very important spiritual law. Because had they been aware, they would have realized that actually what they were doing is finishing off the Jomo Kenyatta presidency as quickly as possible. They were actually doing the opposite of what they thought they were doing. Why? Because of something called bloodletting. You don't do that. If you want things to go well with you, that is the last thing you want to do. Okay? And history has shown us this over and over again. Anyway, please observe carefully what happened in Kenya after 25th October 1969. Jomo Kenyatta's health just went south and south and south. He started slipping in and out of comas. Most of the time, he was in a coma. His public appearances were very, very few. And when he appeared in public, it was obvious that the man was very sickly. But obviously at the time, it was treason, a very serious crime in Kenya, to even suggest that the president looked sickly. And those people who understand the spiritual will also understand something else very important. Damu inaitisha damu. And therefore what happened is that in 1975, a man called Josiah Mwangi Kariuki was assassinated in a very brutal manner. Very brutal. Now, recently we have gotten some very conclusive evidence telling us without doubt who was behind the J.M. Kariuki assassination. Burudi Nabwera, who was a member of the Parliamentary Select Committee that looked into the gruesome murder of J.M. Kariuki, and they presented this report to Jomo Kenyatta, and Jomo Kenyatta rejected that report, saying that there was no way he was going to receive it until they delete the names of 2 individuals on that list. Yeah, Wanyoike Thungu, very close to Kenyatta, one of Kenyatta's thugs, and another man called Mbiu Koinange, Jomo Kenyatta's brother-in-law, I believe by marriage of Jomo's second wife. And super fascinating, those 2 names were deleted from the report using a green pen, Kenyatta's green pen, on the spot. Sema kufanya vitu kienyeji. They were deleted with the green pen of Jomo Kenyatta, and then Jomo Kenyatta accepted that report from the Parliamentary Select Committee. Na hiyo maneno ikaishia hapo. And in the following year, 1976, there was a secret, highly secret visit into the country by renowned South African heart surgeon, Dr. Christian Barnard. Now, one of the reasons why that visit had to be secret is that in those days, South Africans were not allowed into the country called Kenya, okay, because of the apartheid policies of the Wabeberu Wazungu in South Africa at the time. Now, Dr. Christian Barnard was the very first human being, this African, born in Cape Province. Yes, he was white, but he was an African, a white African, will forever go down in history as being the very first human to carry out a successful heart transplant, to remove a heart from another human being and to put it in another human being, and for that human being to live. Okay. And this happened in the late 60s. Okay, his first patient survived for 18 days. Yeah, he passed on because he got pneumonia. Nothing to do with the heart after 18 days. But his second patient lived for 1.5 years. And so Barnard was brought into the country to examine President Jomo Kenyatta, who at the time was ailing, yeah, to see if he could add more years to Jomo Kenyatta's life. But then, you know, we humans never learn. Spiritual laws are spiritual laws, and they're final. When the good doctor examined Jomo Kenyatta, he was just shaking his head. Lost cause. There was nothing he could do. And it is very instructive that after that, a group emerged called the Change the Constitution Group, whose main objective was to change the Constitution so that in the event of the death of Jomo Kenyatta, the then Vice President, Daniel Moi, would not ascend automatically into the presidency, even in an acting capacity. But sickly Jomo did not support that group. Although the Kiambu Mafia were behind that group, people very close to Jomo, still the sickly Jomo did not support that group, and indeed dismissed the whole idea with an old Kikuyu proverb that if you want to catch a cow, you don't show it the rope. And that was the end of the Change the Constitution initiative. And in 1978, in August, Jomo Kenyatta passed on. Bottom line, that operation of 1969, all that bloodletting, was for nothing because it went against spiritual laws. Fast forward to the present. And I'm going to end my show today with questions which you need to answer. I will not answer them for you. Okay? Question number 1. Have you noticed any change with the Ruto presidency since the Gen Z manenos, yeah, the Gen Z uprising, and the serious bloodletting that was used to put it down, including the Kwari manenos? You remember? Mili nyingi sana ilipatikana huko. Alafu serikali ikafunika. Okay? After that, have you noticed any difference with the Ruto administration? His hold over the country, the way he rules? Question number 2. Just like after 1969, have you noticed many political assassinations in the country called Kenya? just like it was after 1969? And my last question, just like it was after 1969, do we have a situation in the country where it seems that the administration has finished off one of their own? Do we have the same, like J.M. Kariuki in 1975, who was from the Kikuyu community, which was the same community as the community of the leadership, the executive at that time, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta? Do we have a similar situation now, or do we not have it? It's just a question I'm asking. Yeah? I believe you may have the answer. But as far as I'm concerned, I do not have an answer to that last question. Okay? And only time will tell. And time alone. Until next time, this is Chris Karaoke Kumekucha.